All right, welcome back, everyone. I am here to bring you the second episode to my Avorion modded series. Again, I am using OBS Studios for recording. Last time, I essentially showed the beginning steps of the game, along with showcasing some of the features of the mod pack that I'm using. If you didn't notice, there was a link in the description of the video that pointed towards the actual mod pack and also the ship set that I personally created. So if we come here to settings and mods, um, these are all loaded from the Steam Workshop. They're all assembled in one collection created by me. Um, If you were to go to each independent mod, it will explain exactly what each does. This is actually the second time for me recording this, as I um, had changed some software around on my computer and had a conflict with just Avorion out of all my games, which is very strange. But I got it fixed, and um, so I just want to make highlights instead of going through each mod like I did before. Um, Essentially, my mod pack is to be a quality of life booster um, that makes the game more difficult in ways that were lacking, um, but possibly easier in some respects. Um, like when it comes to replicating turrets by going to turret factories, that's not the standard vanilla way. Usually, you would have to consume a turret, turning it into a blueprint, which then you would have to use parts which are consumable and create new turrets that way. Whereas with the mod I'm using, it simplifies it into here is the type of material a turret is made out of. Um, that's what you're going to have to pay in resources to be able to duplicate it. And then also depending on the technology level of the turret, it's going to increase whatever that resource cost is. So I think it's not cheaty. It's balanced. It just simplifies it in a way that you don't have to carry around parts in your cargo. Um, but yeah, no. So I have some AI related ones that have to do with like causing more wars, border conflicts, making the Zeostin a real force to deal with. When you see the mothership fleet warp into the outer rim, you're sitting there in a ship that doesn't even have shields. It's a pretty scary sight to see. Still, it's nice um, to see it added to the game. There's a lot of ship sets, obviously, when it comes to what other NPCs are using or what factions are using. Um, The pirates are changed. Um, they're meant to be escalating in their acts. Um, Currently, I'm not using a increased difficulty mod. I might add that to the mod pack eventually. It's save game compatible, but it makes it so AI of 10 times higher hull, um, about 5 to 10 times higher damage ratios, along with higher shields. Um, it's very difficult early on. It's near impossible to use when you're in early game, but possibly something I will add later in the playthrough when we're at least mid game with titanium ships or trinium ships. What else is there? There is the whole refining changes I made. So with one mod, it makes it so that your ships will just drop off cargo to the refinery and then go back to mining. And then they won't just sit there and wait until the refining is done, which is what the base game does. And so that keeps down congestion, keeps your ships from having unnecessary idle time. Um, I also have Refinery Subsystems, which are not a huge game breaker. They're a nice flavor adder. They're great for mining ships. I don't know how well they would work on a mining carrier, though, as mining carriers can gather excessive amounts of resources very, very quickly. Um, I also have the looping orders or order list from Avorion 1.0. So it brings that over to Avorion 2.0 that many people missed. Um, it works in its entirety. Um, see if there's anything else noteworthy. There are changes to weapon slots, not outrageously though. I believe it's a 2 times multiplier. It is just meant to make it so that ships, which you possess, um, feel more like ships and not need um, all subsystems dedicated towards getting more weapon slots or mining slots or whatever else. It does not have a huge impact on performance. Um, Obviously, if you were to get a different mod where it increased it to 5 times slots or 10 times slots, then yes, there is a big performance impact, which is why I stuck with the lowest possible option. Um, yeah, and then there's far more changes, but you're welcome to look at the collection on the Steam Workshop. Okay, so we'll load back in our game. Here we are, so you have 1 hour 55 minutes playtime. This video is not going to be as long. We're going to load in. I did notice while watching the video for the first part on YouTube, um, there were times when jumping from sector to sector, it would appear that my screen would freeze. In actuality, it is just the loading screens going on. For whatever reason, the OBS Studio is not recording that. Um, but I mean, you're not missing anything, and it's not what the game itself does when you're going from system to system. The loading screen usually has some sort of design, which can actually be saved to your ship designs by just hitting a couple keys, um, and it usually gives you some sort of tip. So like I did notice that when it comes up to the press spacebar to continue, that would show on the video. So eventually the screen you're seeing here is the screen you see throughout the loading process when jumping from system to system. Okay. So I picked up where we left off last time. We have our little ship here that we built. Again, this is all iron, very simple design. It's not gonna be there for fighting. I would only use it for mining, and I would go straight for a titanium build as soon as possible. So we are going to get rid of this ship because it's unnecessary. Yeah, so actually I had to be able to fix the conflict I had with Avorion. I actually had to delete my game, which uh, in between these recordings made it so that I had some file loss when it came to ship designs. But luckily, because I had published designs to the workshop, I have plenty here that are always cloud saved. To my knowledge, Avorion does not offer cloud saving yet in a standard game. That is something yet to be added. So it is all locally saved, unfortunately. You can obviously stop files from being deleted, though, like I did for this actual playthrough. It's fairly easy. You just make a copy of it, and then when you reinstall the game, you drag in, the Galaxy folder, which is where this playthrough is saved, and voila, you're back to where you were. So this is the ship design we already have deployed. You can look at a couple of the others. So this is one that we could afford. This ship right here, which is a 7-slot ship, so it's larger than the Shark. And when I had first designed it, it was meant to be an escort ship. So it's not a bad design. It's a fairly large ship though. So we'll look at what other ships might be usable. This is a very nice drone as well. I'll showcase this. So this, if you thought my last ship was agile, the Shark variant, this is about as agile as it comes. It's meant to be very sleek. Very, very small though. It is, when you put this little drone next to it, it's definitely not considerably larger than the drone, especially when looking at my other ships. Um, so it's very, very small, but it's perfect for early game. Very, very cheap. As you saw, it is 1,300 titanium and 8,000 credits. Most expensive part about this ship and operating it would be buying a captain and having the captain execute orders, or the mining lasers, of course. So we are here. Let's go to our equipment dock. I apologize for all the tutorial notifications as I had to reset my game, which brought some of those back up. Type in equipment. It will highlight where the known equipment docks are, which is 2 jumps away for us. We'll jump on over there. As you might notice, when compared to the iron ship, this titanium ship has white thrusters, which is just how the game differentiates between material use. So from material to material, each have their own unique properties and colors and strengths and processing power. Okay, this is a resource depot and trading post. And our other ship is, if you might remember, is presently mining. Okay, so we're loading in. Check on our ship. So as you see, if I scroll over to the right, it only shows I have one ship. If I scroll over to the left where this other green box is, notifies where my second ship is, Voyager. Now the reason why it's doing that, so like if I scroll more to the left, it's only showing me my ships that are on my screen. So both green squares are on my screen, symbolizing that there's two ships here. They will both show up under my ship list. Or if I just do this eye symbol, show off screen ships, I could be anywhere in the universe and it will show me where my ships are. So if I double click on Voyager, he's set to mine asteroids right now. So I'm gonna stop him from what he's doing. Then I'm gonna set him to mine. Uh, Let me teleport over to him. Loading, loading, loading. So you should be mining. The only time it usually refuses to mine is if there are no mineable asteroids left, which does happen. That should not be the case for him. Yeah, so here he goes. So I'm gonna have him stop, and we're gonna test it again. This guy here, you can tell him to mine. For some reason, the mine button is not working. That is very strange. I cannot tell you why that is not working. It has never been an issue. That could just be a bug um, from possibly him not possessing enough mining lasers right now. So the ship might not be registering as a mining ship. It could also be a result of me having to reinstall the game and um, the game registering this as a fresh save has not had time to realize that this ship is capable of mining. But if I come here, I can tell him to mine. I can back out the ship, and he will go on to do what it is he does. So when I check on him, it shows that he's mining resources, which is what we want. Now the difference up here across these orders, this is the 1.0 orders. So usually with a mining frigate, we would tell it to mine, then we would hold shift and then chain commands and tell it to refine ores and then to loop. That way it would mine, refine, and then do it all over again. So it should eventually work. I don't know why it's giving us an issue right now, but I assume it will go away. Never had an issue with that mod before. But we are going back to the new ship that we just built. We are still visiting the equipment dock. Hopefully we could buy some good quality subsystems, as we have yet to find any. So he is still mining resources. And you can see our ticker off to the right. We're showing he's gaining titanium. But as long as you see that ticker, you know that when you're out of system, he is still gathering resources for you. Now he's not a very efficient miner because he's using a purifying miner, and he only has 2 lasers. But hopefully we can change this soon. So don't expect to get rich off of this current setup, but it's a start. So we are very poor right now. we need a dock, trade equipment. Let's see, we have 13 minutes. Okay, so civil turret control systems, they give us an awful lot of unarmed turret slots, which is what we need for the mining lasers. Turret control subsystems give you arbitrary turret slots, which will count as military or offensive turrets or civilian. So they're able to kind of do it all. Um, but you don't get as many turret slots by going that route. It's the game's way of balancing it. Otherwise, everyone would just use arbitrary turrets. And as you read on the details, there is the initial turret slots listed at the top, and then there is the permanent installation benefits. So I will show you soon where there's a difference between actually just putting a software on your ship, a subsystem, or making it so that that subsystem is now a functional part of the ship, where it cannot just be pulled off. There are places you can go, like other equipment docks, where permanent installations can be removed. But if you were to do it at any other location, it would destroy the subsystem by removing it. Okay, so we're looking through here. Nothing too great. We would ideally want titanium parts, and the only... Ooh, this is a very good double chain gun turret, but it's a coaxial weapon. So coaxial weapons, they get a very large bonus to damage, which makes them look attractive, but then the whole point of coaxial is that they cannot turn. So you would be shooting in the same direction at the whole time. So no two coaxial weapons can shoot at the very same point. But if you're shooting a large target, it does not matter, as the area to hit is very large. So it'd be like a shotgun blast, multiple coaxial turrets hitting at different spots. Um, I personally don't really use them. Um, but they're not terrible, especially early on. So this ship, or this gun here, is nice. It does a lot more damage than what we're currently using. So ours does about 60 to 64 damage, where this does 8 damage. Now another factor to take into consideration is accuracy and range. So the range on this is shorter than ours by about 0.7 kilometers. So just for that reason, I think I'm going to pass up on it. There's point defense weapons, which is very good for incoming missiles, along with fighter craft. But missiles is the most predominant use. So we're going to buy this green right here. It says uncommon point defense cannon. We bought one of those. And this is object detector, which would help us find large asteroids, but its highlight range is only 10 kilometers, which is not far at all. So I usually hold off until I find exotic, as the highlight range with an exotic one is typically system wide, which is what we want. We have a mining system here, which would be good. Showcase that. So we could buy one of those. So we have a Universal Adventure Companion. We may also want to grab that. We'll buy that, and then we'll look at the civil control turret. We will buy this. Okay. I'm done here. We're going to replicate some systems. So I'm going to make 2 more of these. So it does cost credits. This is also part of a mod, by the way. It's the replicating ability. It costs money to replicate it. It's slightly cheaper than to buy it new, but it's just the point of having the same system. Again, otherwise, it's very unlikely you're gonna find the same system with the very same exact stats. It's all randomized. So this helps make it uniform throughout the fleet, which I would like that organization, rather than having mixed match ships and whatnot. So just creating two of everything that I want. Keep the refinery bays there. Okay. Alright, so this ship does have a pretty good energy production compared to what it consumes. Because this is a titanium ship, it has generators. As you can see, it can't hold very many subsystems. Saying that for the next subsystem be unlocked, we would have to nearly more than double our processing power. So what we're gonna do is we are going to install two systems. So we're going to install this, a mining subsystem. And we're going to install a turret subsystem. Look at our consumption, very close. It means we're going to need more power. So usually what I do in this circumstance is I go to modify entire ship. I like to increase by realistic intervals. So this is a 20% increase to my ship size, which costs 1,000 more titanium. Now remember, the original ship cost was only 1,300, so this brings this design up to 2,300. Uniform scaling keeps it all looking roughly the same. Might add some more blocks, but here we go. Saw it change some stats, but the general design is still true. The rotation and all that might change some, but not terribly. We have pirates attacking. They're fairly weak. As you can see here, let me see if I can turn off this tutorial real quick, actually, because this is getting quite bothersome. I think unfortunately I cannot. It was unfortunate. So once you turn them off, they never come back up, which is nice, but you always have the encyclopedia you can reference. So like right here, this asteroid, it's showing that it has iron inside of it. So this is actually a normal looking asteroid. Unless we had the subsystem, we would not know that something is in it. And inside is 124,000 iron. Now for reference, we only own 77,000 iron. Now, as you guys are just now seeing the true composition of these asteroids, many of them have quite a bit in there. But usually, if we broke down an entire asteroid, we maybe get 5 to 6,000 of iron, you know. And the reason that is if we come to our ship, we look at what we're mining with. We are mining with our best laser, which is this, and it has a mining efficiency of 24.1%. Now, because it's only at 24.1%, we're only going to get at most 24.1% of what is being mined, right? So, for example, if it was 100,000 iron in here, which is a little bit more than that, say it's 100,000 to make it easy, we would only get 24,000 actual iron out of that, which is why our miners are very important in the future, because on average they are 70% or higher when it comes to mining efficiency. So you're getting triple the amount of resources from the same amount of work and the same amount of time being spent. The difference, though, with our miners is that that gets turned into raw ore, which is then sent to your cargo bay. With a purifying laser, there's no need for a cargo bay because it is automatically transferred into usable iron because it is being purified. So there are trade-offs if you don't want to have to deal with a cargo bay and having to refine ore. You could just purify everything. You're just going to get a whole lot less iron at a given speed. So ideally, I would like to have a turret factory so I can kit out the ship in the way that I would like. The closest one is over. And as you see in the bottom left, our energy capacity when we're just coasting, we're not boosting or anything, is only filled halfway up. So that means our power supply is still not the greatest. So before we were consuming only this much for required energy, maybe 15%. Now we're consuming over 50%. So we could make this ship larger. My general rule of thumb, though, is if you can jump and jump again with ease, then it's okay. So we're going to test it out. Yeah, so our total energy capacity, which is the yellow bar, barely took a dent. It maybe consumed 8% of our total energy to do one jump. As long as you're able to recover that 8% by the time you make the next jump, you're golden. So while we're going about doing this, we're also going to start keeping a lookout for stations with captains. Speak of the devil, we have 2 minor captains. Okay, so this is a tier 1, which is not great. He is a market expert, which is okay. It's a good trait, just doesn't do much for a minor captain. He is careful, which makes him slower at commands. He is very low risk overall of being attacked because he's careful and intimidating. So not terrible, not great though. Another captain, so he has more traits, but he's still only a tier 1. Yeah, neither of these captains really yeah, really are worth looking at right now. We should just move on to the next system. A little bit of a tongue twister there. Twisting over my own tongue. Okay, so we have a Daredevil Captain, which is good for a escort ship or a warship. He gets a bonus to turret fire rate, which is a good captain. It's tier 1, he has a lot of perks, but he's only tier 1, so I would not buy him. Okay, well, we're going to go to the turret factory itself. The supplier is where you would buy the components if you were wanting to get a turret blueprint and then altering it from there. I just never go about doing Okay, so we're gonna replicate some of these turrets. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna build 10 of these guys. That's a lot of iron, but I think it'll be okay. We're gonna get a lot of iron. Now we're down to 38,000 iron. Let's check our ship. So we have a total crew capacity of 16. We may have to increase that, but we will see. Alright, so what I want to do is take my unarmed turrets, which we have enough slots to get 10 of them, just 10 turrets. Our other ship only has 2. So the subsystem makes a very big difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the mirror mode. I'm going to have it mirror off the x-axis, so whatever is placed on one side goes on the other. So I'm just going to put them in a straight line. That's 6, 7, and maybe I could get one more in that line. Maybe not. Okay, well that's 10 nevertheless, which is a very good amount. Very good amount. This is definitely a very heavy mining ship. Now the nice thing is that this ship has 3 defensive slots, which is very good. Especially for a ship this small. It's extremely good. Now, I could put it in there, but then it's going to limit exactly where these turrets can shoot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one on both sides there. I'm going to put one right in the bottom. Again, I have to think of where he can shoot. I think I will actually place him there. He will be able to shoot to the left, right. That should be fine, I think. Yeah, he will be fine there. So we need crew. So we need 5 more miners, 3 gunners, 8 more crew, and we luckily have enough crew space for that. Tractor beam in, so we're docked, hire crew. And we got lucky here too, where there's expert crew. So we can buy 3 of these. Gives us 4.5, so if we buy 1 more, get that, nice. So if we buy 2 professional gunners, now we're at 4 out of 3. Perfect size crew, we're at 12 out of 16. But you always want someone to be backup, right? So let's just bring us right up to the max. We'll bring us 16 out of 16. This crew is good to go. I'm going to set them to auto assign, which they already are. And then we're going to assort our lasers. Set all the mining lasers to group 1. And group 2. And we're going to jump to another system with the hopes of getting a miner captain. So you need to jump to Insatiable Path Alpha. So we're going to go look for the jump gate, which is here. We're going to fly over there. Yeah, so typically this ship design I want to increase. I'm just doing it for the purpose of this video. I prefer this ship design over the starter little turret drone when I move around. as this ship design can move significantly faster. Oh, let me actually go back to the turret arrangement. Okay, so we actually need to put an armed turret on here. So it's a good thing we bought additional crew. We'll put that one turret right here. Alright, we'll set him as 3. So our defensive turrets are already set to having auto fire ability. So you do not have to target oncoming missiles directly or fighter craft directly, as that would be near impossible. But instead, they will operate under their own targeting system and fire away on their own. Ideally, you would like the ability for your actual weapons to be able to do that as well, which you can gain that ability through um, subsystems later on. Usually, combat subsystems offer so many auto fire slots, which I'll show at some point. Okay, so there's no one good here. So we will go to Hollow Chaos. And I'll show off the mining capability of this soon. We're just trying to find a mining captain, so we can also let this ship go free. This ship is about 1,000 hull weaker than our other ship, as the other ship also has 2 more subsystem slots. This ship only has 2, but obviously this one, because it has subsystems equipped, is able to use 10 mining lasers at once instead of the other ship, which can only use 2. So subsystems make a huge difference. Um, Typically, this subsystem in a vanilla game would only give you 6 slots, but because of my mod, it nearly doubled that amount, which is what I was looking for. And this whole time, our one ship keeps mining as we want it to. Okay, so we have a miner captain, hire crew. He's tier 2. Okay, we can go for him. There's a lower chance of being ambushed, which is good. He might be good for leading a group of miners, because then we'll want to have to send escorts with them. Ideally, we would want someone that also has the ability to go faster. Should be ideal. Okay, so let's actually go to this asteroid real quick. We only have mining lasers on right now, and then the auto-fired turrets. The auto-fired turrets will not shoot at this asteroid. Is what we want. See, we're doing 1.4k damage where we used to only do 200. Very large jump. So So this block does 97k iron if we mine this interior block. So as you see, it's going slow because it's a large block, but I mean not terribly slow. After say 30 seconds, it should break because it's nearly 100k as its original amount. We will get about 20 to 24,000. So in reference, we currently have 38,000 in storage, but just by breaking this one block, we will get a significant bump what we currently have in reserves. So while setting up mining ships does cost resources, especially when it comes to duplicating turrets and getting the turrets that you desire, um, it does quickly pay itself back. Um, assuming you have a good setup going. Usually I keep miners together and then I will go AFK in the system with them. Um, that way the AI will not get bugged out to any degree. You can also send AI on complex missions where the rate at which they mine is dependent on a formula, so a mathematical formula, instead of actual AI movement and all that. So simple orders, it's the actual AI moving around, which could get stuck on something or be taking a while to aim, like we saw in the first video, which can obviously hinder the rate at which you get resources. I also have a mod on which increases the amount of resources you get from those complex missions. You get 23k iron right there. But I have a mod on which increases the rate at which you get resources from the complex missions. Because it takes about 3 hours on average to do a complex mission. It's 3 hours in actual time, not game time. Um, so after 3 hours, they will come back from their mission and it will be satisfied. At certain intervals, they will either deposit it to like a piggy bank for you to withdraw the spoils from, or they can also automatically deposit it to your account. Um, Now, the reason why I added that mod is that the original mathematical formula the game was following was based on asteroid fields that did not have increased asteroid sizes. So, roughly, you get about equal amounts if you were mining in person as if you were to do the mining mission. Usually, I do the mining mission as it makes it simpler and I don't have to worry about pirate attacks too much. This guy has a lot of titanium in him, but we also had a trader pop into the system. Um, mobile resource merchant is here. So see, he's carrying 4 million iron on him. Now, if you were to attack him, you would not get that. Excuse me. You would not get 4 million iron. Um, you would get some resources, but nowhere near the amount that is advertised as being sold. So he's not like some piggy bank you should try raiding. Um, those are just civilian ships. He likely only has 1 or 2 guns on him, and that's about it. So just cracking this crust. Alright, so we broke through the crust. So we have the health bar here. You can see it slowly going down. As we're using iron mining turrets, it is going slower. But because this is actually over 100,000 titanium in this asteroid, we should get about 25 to 26,000 titanium this time around, rather than the 23 and change that we got last time. The more resources we get, the larger the ships we can get, and the larger the ships, the more subsystems that they can have. Larger ships are also obviously better with combat. Even if they're not combat role ships, they're still likely going to come under attack at some point from pirates or even enemy factions if you have negative relationships with someone. Zeostin are always liable to appear no matter where you are in the galaxy. They are just generally hostile to everyone. There is no diplomacy with them. They will just attack you. I have noticed though that depending on how strong you are, or whether or not you've collected any Zeostin artifacts, the mothership fleet will not attack you um, if you do not or have never possessed an artifact. You get your first artifact by killing Boss Walks at least once, and he will drop it in his ship carcass. So I do not know if we will be fighting Boss Walks this time, um, as this video will likely not be too long, and just showing some continued footage, um, showcase the mod launcher, showing off this ship a bit. You guys are seeing subsystems for the first time. And you're seeing exactly how fast mining can go. Because the other ship only has 2 lasers, and he is doing a very bad job when it comes to mining. This guy, once we set him to automatically mine, he should do a phenomenal job. Maybe not as good as us, but he'll still do good. And because we have lasers mounted on the left and right side of the front of our ship, he should have a much easier time when it comes to aiming. The only issue by splitting up your lasers like that is he might be a angle that only allows one half of the lasers to fire and not the other. So then you'll mine at half the speed you usually do. But that's just the reality of dealing with the AI captains. If you build 3 to 4 AI ships that are being managed, they will outperform you managing just one ship. There is no limit to how many ships you can possess in your fleet, or per system. I believe the game is based on and optimized for having 20v20 space battles. I believe anything over that amount, the game is prone to lag, just because this is an older engine. But I feel like that's already an extremely large battle. I most often never have fleets larger than 6 to 7 ships, which is already huge. But again, I've never made it to the center of the galaxy, so maybe you would need 20 ship fleets to be taking on like the final bosses and whatnot. So yeah, no, we got quite a bit of titanium right there. We will try setting him to mine sector and seeing what he does. So very agile, is spinning around very fast. Yes, look at him go. And as I said, so one moment, one of the lasers wasn't firing because he was being blocked. Yeah, so right there. One laser is firing on the left side just because he's being blocked by the angle, all because of the design of the ship, because there's some triangles jutting out. So if you want to build ships purely for performance, having big, wide, open areas is ideal. You also want your ship to be fairly flush in shape, so that if you have a turret at the front of the ship, it will have a shot at the all the way at the other end of the ship. If it were auto targeting, if a ship were to fly past you, the turret would be able to spin around and do 360 and continue shooting um, without you having to spin the ship. Those are the best designs, but they don't look the prettiest. You can create very beautiful designs that do allow a lot of ability to have um, visual access for your turret gunner. Um, I'm able to do that to some degree, but this ship is not designed for that. It is a drone ship and not um, a combat role ship. Later on in the game, you are capable of designing your own turrets. So, like, we have the one turret here, the weird arm that's sticking up. Um, you can actually design your own turret designs. So people do like Warhammer theme and etc. Or like what looks to be like a tank gun that's on their ship. You can do all sorts of neat stuff like that. You can paint them in certain ways. You can change the color of the laser that's being fired. All highly customizable. It's one of the reasons why I love the game. And you can save and publish those designs as well to the workshop, and you can add them to collections so that if you want people using your ship design with the matching turret design, then they can do that. I will show you how to go about doing that in a later video. It's not that complicated, and a lot of people go about doing that. When I first started designing ships, they were all basically blocks. I focused on having enough energy, having enough turn rate and acceleration, and enough armor. Those are my key things. As I became more experienced, I realized where the best spots were for thrusters, for example. Having them on the outside edges of the ship makes them perform better. Um, and then I also took in the fact of like armor versus blank hulls or smart hull blocks. Armor gives you a whole lot more hull, but it also gives you a lot more mass, which will slow your ship down. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. You can get very customized, and then you can add some cool designs. They're using the mirroring tools. You can build very symmetrical looking ships with a high degree of speed. And like when you're waiting for ships to go mine, you could be designing ships. You just have to make sure the game won't pause while you're going on the building sprees, because otherwise all your mining orders and etc. will not progress until the game is resumed. So there are mining orders, there are expeditions if you want to explore, there is scouting, which will display like systems and hyperlanes and other factions. There is market orders, so you can be a merchant. You can have AI buy and sell resources, which works phenomenally, so much better than what you can personally manage to do. But I find that you still have to identify the best trade routes. Um, because the AI will show you the plus and minus percentages for like how well something will sell, but you, the player, have to know like what systems work the best. Like you have to check the radar to be able to tell, hey, is this part of the galaxy, do they have enough water supply? If they don't, then you need to look to see if water is even in high demand. Just because there isn't a large supply doesn't mean people people necessarily want to buy it. If there's farms and etc. in that region that do consume water, and there's no one out there selling water, then if you set up a water factory, people are going to be coming and buying it and wanting it, which is a good way to make money. Because mining these resources I'm doing right now, I can go to Refinery and I can sell them. So if you remember, one iron is worth 6.8 credits. So 100,000 iron is 680,000 credits. So we've already spent about 1.1 million credits. And we've obviously consumed a lot of our resources building turrets or building our ships. So in the short time that we've been mining with this new ship, we've already gained about 60,000 iron and about 20 to 30,000 titanium. So this whole time I have not been piloting. This has all been the autopilot. This is the AI captain that I purchased. Having a higher tier captain, he will perform his job better. Some of the traits also make a big difference. Like if he is clumsy or you know not very patient, then he is likely to run into things. One moment. All right, I am back. I apologize for that. I am apparently very popular right now as I'm trying to record this. I'm luckily able to mute and pause the video though. I will not be going back to edit footage though. This is meant to be off the cuff, informal, and just informational in general. Yeah, so you see how well this miner is performing. He's in a system with 1,500 asteroids. You can get systems up to, I've seen them as large as like 5,500 asteroids. So this is not a super densely populated system, but it's still really good. You see just how much this one miner is getting. He's far outpacing the other craft that we have floating around. So if we even duplicated this ship to build a complete copy of it, put guns on it the same way, the same um, lasers, and a comparable captain, then we would be getting an excessive amount of resources in early game. So to build a ship that can fight the first boss, you would likely need roughly 200,000 titanium is overkill to either make some really strong warship or build a maybe a group of 3 ships to go on and fight him. Um, I tend to like have stronger singular ships because in the event that I'm being overwhelmed, it is easier to just retreat and repair and come back and continue the battle than it is to have several ships all coordinating a withdrawal from a system. It also helps the lag. Not really any lag you're going to see until probably mid to late game when you have very large fleets. Um, Fleets and lag are not dependent on what's on the galaxy map either, so you could have probably 50 ships off doing various orders. The lag is basically what is being 3D rendered on your given screen. So if you were to have 20 ships in the same system as you that are all fighting, then yeah, that could cause lag. Also, you have to take into factor of how many NPC ships there are. Stations don't contribute so much to lag unless they have hangars on them with fighter craft. But typically the turrets, if they were to start firing, are not a considerable generator of lag. So if I were to look at this is how many NPC ships are here. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 ships. Alright. If another 10 were to jump in, it's not going to cause an issue. Sometimes there are invasions by either Zeostin or other factions, where they might bring in 10 to 15 ships. Zeostin might bring in a little bit more than that, but even with this many AI ships, you're not going to see any lag for the most part. If I were sitting here with another 10 ships on top of that, possibly with all the ships engaging one another, there might be some frame drops, but nothing too considerable. Right now, I'm running the game on nearly max graphics, if not max graphics. Um, so it's very easy to run. I never have any issues with it. I think I've crashed maybe twice on this game, which had to do with carrier craft. Carriers, they produce up to, I believe it is 120 strike craft. And each strike craft is its own independent AI, which then if you have like 600 strike craft out flying around, that will cause lag. So still cool to see. So again, I'm operating on a gaming laptop, 6-core CPU with a turbo speed of 4.3 gigahertz. I am running on 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I have 2 SSDs, with one SSD being my operating system, with the core of my programs being hosted on it, and then I have an SSD dedicated towards gaming files, which is what the Avorion is on. My graphics card is a GeForce 3060, and then I also have a integrated GPU, which is Intel. Typically, my integrated graphics will be running whatever desktop processes or web browser will be going on the background simultaneously, while my dedicated GPU, 6 gigabytes of um, VRAM, is generating what you see on my screen right now for the game. And I do see some frame drop from using the OBS Studio. It usually reduces my frame rate by about 10 to 15. So what you're seeing recorded up in the top right is not what I'd be seeing under, perfect conditions. Um, but yeah, no, it's fairly easy game to run. So we have pirates attacking, so we will go and attack all enemies. So this is the AI captain going out and fighting. The ship's already destroyed, there's no pirates left. So then autopilot. So again, I'm holding shift to bring up the top right portion. Go to autopilot, and then I can do mine sector again, and he'll go right back to mining. So if I were to select the test ship, I can actually, this is a proper ship now and not a test for us. So we will rename this. We'll call this, let's say Europa, after a fantastic oomph song. Alright, so see, it just renamed our reconstruction kit over here. That's what these notifications are. This is a light miner, like the other ship. Obviously, it's a different design, but it is still most definitely a light class miner, as it is very low hull and only has roughly 15 guns on it. In the icon, we will set pickaxe. Yeah, that's the ship. So if I leave the ship and I hit N, now the ship here will have the pickaxe right there. It will say light miner as the class. As you look down here, you have lifters, freighters, cargo. And then I have here mine in green, which is a light miner. And his name is to the right, which is Europa. I do it for organization purposes, but if you were to play multiplayer, which is essentially co-op, um, if you were to enter a system with another player ship in there, it's also identifiable for you and the other players. I will have to be taking a momentary break again. Alright, I am back for now. I might be getting another phone call here soon. Which means maybe I should end this video soon. Um, yeah, I'll just talk about in brief what we did so far this video and what we'll likely do in the next. So we showcased this second design. He's very agile, and because of his frontal shape, he's very apt to mine, and I'm gonna have to take a break. My apologies. Okay, so I am back. I'm going to end this video very shortly because I am very busy, it looks to be. So yeah, so the ship design that we're using right now, where I left off, it has a design towards its front that allows easy access for all lasers to shoot on a singular point, which is partly why this ship design is doing far better than the Shark variant when it comes to mining. Its health is less, so it's not a better combat ship. But because of its subsystems that are equipped, it actually does have point defense equipped to it, which does make it have more attack damage than the Shark. So this has 121 firepower to the design. But ideally, what would happen is this ship would continue mining, it would continue gathering resources. At some point, the resources would either be sold for credits or turned into a larger ship. To fight boss Swokes, we would need a good amount of point defense to ward off torpedoes. There will certainly be many torpedoes firing at us. We will also need much higher firepower to go up against the fleet, as there's roughly 20 or so ships that we're going to have to fight. Um, and then once we defeat him, we are then eligible to move on to the nanite area. So if I go to overlay, so the green ring here is nanite. This is titanium that we're currently in. So once we defeat boss Swax, who's in relatively the titanium area, so we pop it over to bosses. Boss Swax is through here. Kill him. Move on to the next area, which will then have the next boss, which is the AI. Now, as we move closer to the center, the technology level keeps going up and up and up. And here's a little key. So we mainly have Tech 7 items. That's where our equipment dock is, roughly around the Tech 7 area. Our miners are going to be around Tech 17 or so. Should be right about here. Once we get our miners, we'll have to convert our fleet over to ships that actually have cargo bays and the ability to move the raw minerals that we are mining. Um, Usually, once you get a fleet of 3 to 4 of those set up, you just chill out for some time. You amass those resources, gain wealth. Maybe you want to get a merchant set up by that point so you can start multiplying your wealth fairly fast. Um, then eventually you need to start working on getting better quality equipment, whether that be fighting weapons, subsystems, and then you can move on to try to fight the next series of bosses and aiming for better quality minerals. So, in the next area would be nanite, then it goes trinium and xanium. The farthest I have personally made it in the game is up to oganite. Avorion is typically only found within the very center of the galaxy. There's not too many systems that will possess it. So if I go to resources, so right in here, this inner circle is where Avorion is. I've only made it to the outskirts, but as you get closer and closer to the center of the galaxy, the pirates become much stronger, the factions become stronger, and the Zeostin also become much stronger. So you have to have more ships, higher quality ships, um, and also like bases and whatever else to fall back to either heal, um, and especially if you're using fighter craft, which I most definitely do, you're gonna have to give your ships time to be able to produce new fighter craft. Because as you will see in later videos, each fighter craft that you're building on a ship has to be done so with a assembly block, which is basically a factory that's inside your ship. And depending on the size of that factory, it'll take so many minutes to build a single fighter craft. Typically, I like to get my ships where they can build one fighter every 5 to 7 minutes. Those are 5 to 7 minutes in real time, and each ship can house about 120 fighter craft. So that's a lot of fighter craft. Now, if you build multiple factories on your ship, you can have up to 3 fighters being built at a given time. So it's whatever the total max is, so the 120 divided by 3. So you'd have to do 40 sets of production lines, with each production line taking so many minutes to do one production. So it does take time, especially if you lose many fighters in battle. It definitely takes time to recuperate, which is why it's also nice to have stations, which are passively cranking out fighters in their own pace. Um, and that way you're able to just come by with a warship, you can load it up, you can transfer fighters from the station to the ship, and then you can move on. Stations, unfortunately, only house, um, again, 10 squadrons worth of fighters, which it's each squadron has up to 12 fighters in it. Um, Yeah, so just because they're stationed doesn't mean they can hold more. But there's no limit to how many stations you can have in a given sector, nor how many ships you can have. It's just, again, you need to be wary of how much lag is generated by possessing those type of fighter craft. Um, yeah, you may have noticed off to the right too, we got a very large amount of iron. We got a 60,000 iron haul right there. Which 24% efficiency rate. That means we mined a really big asteroid of iron. So yeah, it multiplies very fast. We have more than double the iron that we started the game with. So yeah, I think this is where I'm gonna stop it. I think by the end of the next video, we will likely have taken down boss Fox. I'll maybe do a quick guide on how to build a combat craft. And yeah, hopefully Boss Walks is dead. You'll see the first Zeostin artifact, and we can start heading our way to get our miners. It likely won't be an episode or two until I start showcasing our miner frigates, which, if you think this thing is mining fast, our miner frigate mines at probably 10 times the rate just because its efficiency is so high and its damage for how much each laser does in damage goes up considerably. So yeah, I'm excited to make it to that point. The game tends to be slow in the beginning. I'm obviously having some delays on my end in real life, getting phone calls. Um, but the beginning of the game is slower just in general. Once you make it past that, it becomes very, very fun and enjoyable. Um, some people like the beginning too. It's just mainly the building is the intimidating and challenging part for new players to Avorion. Yeah, I really enjoy it, and I appreciate you if you've made it this far. Again, sorry for having to walk away at some points, and I hope you enjoyed. So I'll do another one of these videos for sure in the future. All right, have a good day. Goodbye.